Build a 3,000-piece Lego with me. I collected all my junk from today, so let's journal. Paint with me as someone who has never tried it before.
Maybe this is my sign to stop doom scrolling and try something new. If you watched my making my 2026 vision board video, you might remember that my goal for this year was to read 3 books. How many have I read? 0. The last time that I finished a book was on May 29th of 2025, and I finished We Were Liars. That is almost a year ago. Mind you, I have done a lot of reading since then because I am a university student, so most of my weeks are completely full of readings, but unfortunately none that I can log on Storygraph. Storygraph is the app that I use to track my reading. I used to use Goodreads like years and years ago, but I find that Storygraph is a lot less overstimulating and I think it's easier to use. So I made the switch and I think it's been great. I used to really love reading, and if you've been around for a long time, I actually have posted a few like booktube-ish videos. I even did one where I read 7 books in 7 days, and looking back, I cannot believe that I did that because that sounds completely unrealistic with the life that I live right now. But back then I had a lot more free time. So one of the hobbies that I'm going to try and dip my toe back into, give it a second chance, is reading. Reading used to come naturally to me, so it didn't really feel like a hobby almost, but now it feels like a much more intentional choice. Currently, and gosh, I had to get this out of the archives, it has dust all over the cover. Currently, I am reading One of Us Is Next, which is the second book in the One of Us Is Lying trilogy, and I started this book on May 30th of last year. So, oh boy. With this book, I told myself I was going to take notes, and I do remember leaving some, and I think those are going to be extremely helpful now because gosh, I don't remember anything that happened in this book. I am currently 78 pages in. I'm about to start chapter 7. Usually when I read mysteries, I don't like to guess on who it is. I just think it's more fun to sit there brain empty. But for this book, I was like, I got this. I'm going to figure out the bad guy before the author tells me. So I did write some notes in here. Like, what did Phoebe do to Emma at Jules's party? Good question. I don't know. Reading these notes, though, gotta be honest, this is not very helpful to understand where we're at. I think the only note that actually makes a lick of sense is this one. Phoebe Lawton, first person to get a truth or dare text while with Brandon Weber. I don't know who either of those people are. It kind of feels weird to like start this again, but I guess here we go.
When I first started reading, I definitely had to keep going back and forth between the pages, my notes, and the characters, which were conveniently right at the front of the book at least. Getting back into a book that you haven't read in so long is so hard because, again, I don't really remember any of the characters or any of their development or any of their characteristics. So going forward, I think the other chapters will be easier and quicker to read.
I have officially finished a chapter, so I am ready to start chapter 8. Right now, I did actually write some notes. I think I know the online username of the person running the Truth or Dare game, and I've ruled out 2 suspects, so I'm making some progress. Every time I finish a chapter, though, I get so excited to track it in my app because then the percentage goes up and I feel like I've accomplished something. I really enjoyed that chapter. I feel like it was interesting and it did keep my attention, but I do have a lengthy to-do list today, so I'm going to put this book aside for now.
The next few days were busy, but I did get some reading in.
I am officially on page 168, about to start chapter 14. And obviously I own the physical book, so I've been reading from here, but I also have the Libby app. Libby is an app that connects to your library card, and then you can borrow audiobooks and ebooks for free. And I, of course, recommend looking into it because I think you should make use of the public resources available to you. It's also so easy. All I did was go on my local library's website and request a library card. And then I just went to the library and picked up my card, and then I could connect it to the app. I think the only downside is that sometimes there's a long wait on certain books that are very popular, but eventually you do get them and you can place them on hold and then you get put in line. And in my experience, the estimated time they give you is longer than it actually takes. On the app, I have started borrowing the audiobook, and I have never listened to an audiobook before. To me, I don't quite understand the hype, again, as someone who's never tried it, because my assumption is that it kind of just sounds like a podcast, and I always think that it must be harder to pay attention because you can't just reread a part. Like, you have to re-listen to it, which I think is more complicated than reading. And also, there's that debate if audiobooks are really even reading. I don't know, but I've been sitting here reading for a while because the book is getting juicy and I want to do something a little bit more productive. I want to fold my laundry. And so I was thinking this would be the perfect opportunity to try the audiobook. So this will be a first for me.
It's not like I'm happy about her being locked in the bathroom puking her guts out, but breakfast is a lot less tense without her glaring at me. Plus, now I have the car and come out for Jules a ride. I've been walking to and from school lately. Hey. I don't mean to be a pain in your ass or anything, but I feel a stab of defensiveness for Emma.
I just finished chapter 14 and I've got to say the multitasking ability is very nice. And I think the audiobook makes it easier to visualize. So I think I'm going to continue listening to the audiobook and get a little more work done.
The space is almost unrecognizable.
I'm officially on page 210, about to start chapter 17, and someone has died. Also, remember when I said that I was going to try to find the bad guy before the author told me? It's not going very well. I don't think at this point I have even the slightest clue. And before, when I thought that I had gotten some suspects off the list, scratch that. I was wrong. Everybody's back on the suspect list. I'm still writing notes, but I am losing faith that I'm going to be able to figure it out before the reveal. This also means I've officially crossed the halfway point of the book. Now I guess the question is, do I keep using the audiobook or do I go back to reading the physical copy?
I continued reading with the physical copy of the book to start because I didn't have a lot that I needed to do this morning. At this point in the book, things were getting juicy. I feel like with mysteries, that's always how it is. The first half is good, but then the second half is where it really ramps up. The second half of the book doesn't really talk about the truth or dare game that much anymore, which is an element I missed.
3 of us are together lately. Knox might not be the school joke anymore, but that doesn't mean things are okay.
I'm officially on page 210, about to start chapter 20, and I checked. There are 34 chapters, which means I have 14 left. And I don't know if it's a little bit ambitious, but I'm thinking that I could finish the book today or tomorrow. Today might be a little ambitious, so maybe tomorrow. But the reason that I'm thinking about when I'm going to finish this book is because I got a notification from my Libby app that one of the books on my TBR is officially ready for me to borrow. I got Yellowface, the physical copy, for Christmas, and the version I requested is the audiobook. And once I click borrow, I get 21 days. Unless I need longer, then I can extend it. But I think I'm going to click borrow either today or tomorrow, so that way I don't lose my place in line. Also, Haley Pham's debut novel got released in Canada this week, and I have officially seen it in person, but it is $21. And truthfully, I'm not a huge romance reader, so I don't think I'd spend that much money on something that I'm not really that interested in reading. I checked the Libby app, and my local library doesn't have the book yet, and that's kind of how the app works. Like, whatever's available in your local library is available on the app. But since the book is brand new, my library doesn't have it, so I asked them to notify me if they do get it, because I think it could be very full circle to read Haley Pham's book. Because if you've, again, been around for a long time, I actually did a video where I read Haley Pham's 5-star reads. All things considered, I think reading is going well at this point, especially with the addition of audiobooks.
To make me feel better about the fact that I'm here every Friday night.
At this point, I was used to the routine, get comfy on the couch and read for an hour or two. Once I get to the last 100 pages, the book flies by. And this was the point where I thought maybe I'd figured it out. It's the next day, and just as I suspected, I did finish One of Us Is Next. I kind of got part of the reveal, but not until very late in the book. And the final reveal, the one that was supposed to like make my jaw drop, wasn't that jaw dropping. Yeah, as someone who loved One of Us Is Lying, I looked back on my app and I gave it 4.5 stars. I really did not get that same feeling from this book. So I'm giving One of Us Is Next 3 stars because I think it was good, it was enjoyable.
enjoyable. It moved at a good pace. It kept my attention, but I did feel a little bit disappointed with the reveal, and it felt like all that buildup was for not as much payoff as I was hoping. All that being said, no hate on this author or this series, because I actually decided to suspend my hold on Yellowface, the audiobook, so that I could start One of Us is Back next. This is the third and final book in the One of Us is Lying series, and I definitely liked the second one enough to continue with the series. I didn't know I had this one in hardcover, which is nice. I have the first one in hardcover and then the second in paperback, and I did check on Libby, and the audiobook is available to borrow. So realistically, I think this will be a better next book to read, because in that way I can just finish up the series and I still remember all the characters. So let's get into my final thoughts about reading as a hobby in 2026. I enjoyed it, but I will say it was definitely harder to get into than I thought. It had been so long since I picked up a book and read it just out of enjoyment. My biggest takeaway is that I definitely understand the hype around audiobooks now. When I wanted to multitask or do something with my hands, having the audiobook as an option was so convenient because I could still figure out what was going to happen next in the story without putting my day on hold. Will I continue reading in 2026? I think so. And I think that I will reach my goal of reading at least 3 books this year. But reading is a harder hobby to like pick up, read 10 pages and go about your day and then read 10 pages. Like it's very much a kind of a commitment. So you remember exactly what's happening in the story. So that I think is the one thing that would kind of hold me back, because it's not something that I can just go months without doing and then get right back into it. Because then I feel like I'm going back and I'm rechecking and I'm like missing parts of the story. But I will definitely try to keep reading up this year.